In this state, for example, the state of Illinois is a corporation, but Illinois State is not. That's a piece of land geographically set. The city of Chicago is a corporation, but Chicago City is a geographical boundary of land and not a corporation. It's a governmental entity. Once you understand and learn those things, and that everything they do has to go by the Uniform Commercial Code, then you will see why it would bring tears to your eyes to see how people have been misused. Because if you're not a part of that corporation, then none of the rules of that corporation. If General Electric has some rules, and you're not a part of working at General Electric, then that's a problem. Because they can't tell you anything to do, they can't fire you, they can't do any of those things. Unfortunately, we were never taught that. I guess that's one of the things why I urge that those individuals in the legislature make it mandatory that they start using civics in our schools again. Because that's why we have low voter turnouts, because most people don't even know the function of certain things in government. When you talk about schools, they will go see the alderman. That's not the alderman's job. That's the state representative's job. When they have something that has to do with something federal, they go see the alderman. That's not, if it's federal, you should be going to see the congressman. Make everyone do their job since you are electing them. And if you keep them doing their jobs, half of our problems in our communities will be over, and they will then have responsibility for what they should be doing, and they'll start doing what they're supposed to do. But if you don't know what they're supposed to do, then they're not going to do what they're supposed to do. It was very interesting. I remember once upon a time, I had a conversation with President Obama when he wasn't the president. He was an up-and-coming politician, and I told him something. Remember this. When men began to praise you and say all manner of good things about you, it is then that you must be on guard. And as you can see, what I told him is coming true. Because one of the things that people don't want to admit is that racism is very much alive in America. Now, as Gus Savage once said, most people don't know what racism is. Racism is when you have the power to affect something or change something, not for the good of another group, but you must have the power to do that. If you don't have the power, the only thing you can do is one thing. And that one thing that you can do, you could be prejudiced, but you can't be a racist. And we need to separate that difference, because one of the things that most racists do, they're about the business of preservation of the good things for their race and to take away the things that are good for other races, because they have the power to do that. You know, I remember right here in this park, Marquette Park, when I became the alderman, black folks really couldn't come into this park. So I figured out how I would tackle that issue. The way I tackled that issue, I decided I was going to have a summer picnic in the park. And we were going to have Lithuanians, Hispanics, Arabs, Moorish people, so-called African Americans. And we were going to have them in the park. And we got a tent put up by the Armory from over on 51st Street for the seniors to sit under. Once we got that tent, we put all the seniors. I walked over there and I saw them all, the whites, the Hispanics, the black seniors, all sitting there talking in Marquette Park. And while they were talking, all of a sudden I heard them say, you know, we all got the same problems. And I smiled and said to myself, I've accomplished what I intended to do. Because most of the time, as Malcolm said, one of the last things Malcolm said was, see, I'm sick and tired of folks talking about the white man is doing this, the white man is doing that. No, he's not doing that. We allow him to do certain things to us. And we do things to ourselves. If we would stand up, if we would take control of our communities, then if you go down on 26th Street, you see what's known as a Mexican town. If you go in certain parts of the old Bridgeport, you see what's known as the Irish town. If you go over on Taylor Street, you see individuals in what's known as the Italian town. You go on the southwest side, the northwest side, you'll find on the northwest side the Polish town. Everybody has a place except us. And in this city, we have got to stop talking about other people and start doing something for self by setting up communities of our own, setting up businesses of our own, so that we can take care of ourselves. Because once you take care of yourselves, then half of your problems will be gone. When I go on 26th Street, I see Mexicans working in the stores. When I go over on Division, I see Puerto Ricans working in the stores. Or better yet, their proper and true name is Boricua. All right, because the land was once owned by the Moors, and they signed a trading agreement with them. And the trading agreement then made that particular land called Barancano. It made that particular land to be called, as a corporation, Puerto Rico. And once you see them all working together, when you go in the Polish community, their businesses are run by Polish people. And that don't mean that you don't like other people. I remember years ago on Madison Street, I remember on 47th Street, all of a sudden, we don't have any stores down there. All the stores that blacks used to have are all gone. Strangely enough, when they had the Jones boys and many other entities, they had Big Jim Martin on the west side of Chicago, they made sure that individuals had money, even though some of the activities that they did wasn't right. But they used the money to put other business, give other people an opportunity to go into business so that they could work for themselves. And we have to go back to doing that kind of thing, making sure that people can work for themselves, hire people who look like themselves. And I repeat what Harold Washington said, because I'm pro-black don't mean I'm anti-white. One of the things I'm glad that I can say, during my lifetime, the only regret that I can have is that I didn't listen to something John Stroger told me. John Stroger told me once we were talking, he says, you know, Alderman, you know, you're doing one thing wrong. I said, what is that, Mr. President? He said, I appreciate you helping me to get elected, and for you to coordinating certain people on the southwest side that people didn't know nothing about, who didn't look like us. But you got to spend time with your family. Because one of these days, when you're not in that position, you give them about 10 years, they won't even remember you. The same thing goes for me. About 10 years, they won't even know I existed. They won't even mention my name. So remember, because I learned the hard way, spend as much time as you can with your kids and with your family. And that's what most politicians fail to do. They're out there trying to please masses of people, but you got to first please and do things for your family.